the unfolding of truth, a journey from self-betrayal to wholeness. There comes a moment, often after years of bending, accommodating, silencing yourself, when the weight of pretense becomes unbearable. You realize, with a quiet but unshakable certainty, that you can no longer pretend. Not for love, not for security, not for the illusion of belonging. This is the first tremor of your awakening, the beginning of your journey toward living from your truth. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the integration of the conscious and unconscious self, a slow and sacred unfolding into wholeness. It is not about becoming someone new, but about remembering who you have always been beneath the masks. Authenticity, then, is not a personality trait but a practice, the daily choice to align your actions with your inner truth, even when it unsettles those around you. But how do we begin? And why does it so often require the ache of reaching a breaking point before we finally listen? The quiet revolution of inner alignment. Living from your truth begins with a simple, radical question: who am I when no one is watching? Not who you are as a partner, a parent, an employee, or a friend, but who you are in the raw, unfiltered silence of your own presence. Society rewards conformity, it thrives on our willingness to wear the right masks at the right times. But Jung warned that the more we identify with these personas, the more fragmented we become. The first act of rebellion is not a dramatic proclamation but a series of small sacred refusals, the boundaries you set, that no you finally speak, the relationships you release not with anger but with the quiet certainty that they no longer align with your soul's direction. These refusals are not selfish. They are the necessary dismantling of an old life to make space for something real. And yet, we resist. Because truth, once seen, demands action. It is easier to stay in the familiar discomfort of self-betrayal than to face the temporary chaos of authenticity. But here's the paradox: the pain of staying the same eventually outweighs the fear of change. That moment, when the cost of pretending becomes too high, is when your transformation begins in earnest. The alchemy of solitude. Jung believed that self-awareness is born in solitude. Not loneliness, that hollow ache of disconnection, but the rich, fertile silence where you meet yourself without distraction. Most of us fear this stillness because it forces us to confront what we've been running from, our unmet needs, our unlived lives, the parts of ourselves we've disowned to keep others comfortable. But something miraculous happens when you stop abandoning yourself. The more you honor your truth, the less you crave external validation. Your worth becomes self-evident, not because the world has affirmed it, but because you've experienced it in each honest step you take. Loneliness transforms into a different kind of companionship, the kind that comes from finally being at home within yourself. Confronting the shadow, the path to emotional liberation. We like to imagine enlightenment as a rising into light, but Jung insisted otherwise. We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light but by making the darkness conscious. Your shadow, the repressed fears, shames, and wounds you've tucked away, holds the key to your liberation. Consider the people-pleaser, the chronic giver, the one who molds themselves to fit others' expectations. Beneath these patterns lies an unspoken fear: if I am fully myself, will I still be loved? This is the shadow's work, the belief that your safety depends on your usefulness to others. But true belonging can never be earned through self-erasure. It can only be claimed when you stop negotiating your worth. Shadow work is not for the faint of heart. It asks you to sit with the parts of yourself you've deemed unworthy, to question the stories you've inherited about what you must be to deserve love. But here's the secret: when you stop running from your darkness, it loses its power over you. The very things you feared would exile you become the bridges back to yourself. Before we continue, I'd love to take a moment to sincerely thank you for being part of this journey toward personal beauty and endless growth. Your support truly means the world to me. If you enjoyed the content, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and sharing this video with others who might find it helpful. Your engagement is what keeps this channel growing and allows me to continue creating content for you. Now let's get back to the video. The ripple effect of authenticity. Living truthfully is not a solitary act, it sends shockwaves through every relationship, every creative endeavor, every choice you make. When you stop abandoning yourself, the world begins to reorganize around your energy. Some connections will fall away. Others will deepen in ways you couldn't have imagined. Your intuition sharpens. Your creativity flows more freely. You begin to trust yourself because you've proven again and again that you will no longer betray yourself for the sake of comfort. This is the ultimate rebellion, a life no longer shaped by fear, but by the quiet, unshakable authority of your own truth. The final threshold, disappearing from the wrong eyes. I remember the first time I said no, not with resentment, but with clarity. It was a small thing, a request I would have automatically accepted in the past. But this time, something in me resisted. The fallout was minimal, but the internal shift was seismic. I am allowed to take up space. I am allowed to disappoint others to honor myself. That is the heart of it. Living authentically means accepting that some people will only love you as long as you are convenient. And so, you must be willing to disappear from the lives of those who only see you as useful. Not with bitterness, but with the understanding that your truth is not negotiable. The invitation, crossing the threshold to your true self. The door to your truth has stood open all this time, unlatched and waiting, yet so many of us hesitate at the threshold, our hands hovering over the knob. We've become so accustomed to the weight of our masks, the polished versions of ourselves we present to the world, that stepping through feels like risking everything. But here's the liberating truth: your most authentic self isn't some distant destination, it's the home you've carried within you all along, patiently waiting for your return. The real question isn't whether you're worthy of crossing that threshold, but whether you're finally ready to stop pretending you don't belong there. Tonight, in those quiet hours when the world settles and distractions fade, I invite you to a radical act of self-honoring. Light a candle, find a scrap of paper, and ask yourself the question that matters most: what is the one sacred refusal my soul has been begging me to make? Maybe it's that long overdue boundary you've been avoiding out of fear, the no you've swallowed 100 times. Perhaps it's the raw, unedited truth you need to speak to someone who expects your compliance. Or it could be the silent release of a relationship or obligation that drains your spirit. Whatever form it takes, give it life by putting pen to paper. Let this simple act be your declaration that from this moment forward, your loyalty to yourself comes first. This is how revolutions of the spirit begin, not with dramatic manifestos or public proclamations, but through these quiet, trembling acts of courage. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, when you prioritize your peace over others' expectations, when you listen to that inner whisper rather than the roar of external demands, you're realigning your life with your soul's true north. These moments might feel small in isolation, but together they form an unshakable foundation of self-trust. That quiet voice you hear in stillness, the one that speaks in feelings rather than words, that tugs at your ribs when you're about to betray yourself, that's the sound of your essence calling you home. It doesn't need to shout to be powerful. In fact, its greatest strength lies in its persistence, the way it keeps speaking even after years of being ignored. Your liberation waits in learning to lean into that whisper rather than away from it. So here's your invitation: should you choose to accept it, take 3 minutes tonight, just 180 seconds, to name your sacred refusal. Write it boldly or scribble it fearfully, but write it. Then, within the next day, take one concrete action to honor it. Delete that compromising text before sending. Decline the invitation that drains you. Speak the truth instead of the platitude. This isn't about grand gestures, it's about proving to yourself that you can be trusted with your own heart. The door has always been open. The home you seek has always been yours. All that remains is to step through.